Oh, isn't that nice?
Davis, how are you?
Good morning. I'd like to call to order Kane County Finance and Budget Committee meeting for Thursday, December 19th at 9:01. Go ahead, roll call, please.
Juby,
Over here.
Lewis,
Lewis here.
Sanchez, Surges,
Burgess present.
Pepe,
Pepe here.
Leonard,
Here.
Roth,
Roth here.
Irma's here.
and in-person quorum.
Thank you. Any remote attendance requests?
Do not.
In none. Full of minutes from November 27th, 2024.
Hi. For unanimous consent for the minutes of November 27th, 2024.
Any opposition? The minutes are approved then by unanimous consent. Public comments? We have no one signed up. Treasurer's report, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Blair, if you put up a first picture. On Tuesday, we had our Christmas party in the treasurer's office. No taxpayer money was spent. Everybody pitches in. Elizabeth, Veronica, and Carlos were our social committee. This is a very productive group. It was on Tuesday. One of the things in our family around Christmas, you know, there weren't like games and things, but in our group, there were games and things. And one of the things, I don't know if it's useful in any of your families, but the suggestion, and I think it was Elizabeth's, is that everybody bring in baby pictures. And then one of the contests that they have is guess who's, you know, each one, and, you know, how we all got so good looking as the years went on. But it's a lot of fun on this. The other thing was one of the other games, and it was almost like a cultural exchange. It's called Loteria. And, you know, if you go back to the root, it's lottery, and it's the equivalent of bingo. So great fun had by all. So now into the actual report. If you'll turn to page 7, all this is on file, but on page 7, let's see. Last year, the budgeted amount was 1.8 million, 1.788. So 1.8 million was the budget for fiscal year 23.
No, I 1000% back that one up. So
Then the actual for collected interest collected was 16.9 in 23. That was the actual. In December, interest collected was about $1.7 million or 1.667 on the far right-hand side. For the full year, it was 21.6 million. So $20 million of interest income. And then how that breaks down is on the bottom left-hand side, 18 million stays at home, stays with the county. And then 3.5 million goes out to the different local taxing agencies. 2 years ago, that number was 200,000 to the local agencies. Last year, it was 2 million. This year, it's 3.5 million. Now, I feel, you know, duty bound that my estimate, and we're still working on trying to get solid information to the board that would help in actionable items. But I would anticipate that between 50 and 60% of that money could be used to offset expenses. But I know that that's still in discussion at this point. If you go to the next page. On page 8, basically what this slide shows is that we're performing above standards. There's basically the short term. If you take a look at the Carolina blue line versus the navy blue line, Carolina blue is our demand accounts. The navy blue is the Illinois Treasurers Fund, which Leslie is very familiar with. In the money market, that's the short-term barometer. We're about 75 basis points. We were 75 basis points behind. Now we're, I believe, approximately 50 basis points ahead. So we gained ground. On the long-term benchmark, if you take a look at the green and the yellow lines, that's our investment account. And then that's the yellow. Yellow is the investment account. Green is the investment and demand account. We're 50 basis points higher than the silver line, which is the equivalent benchmark for about 1-year treasuries. Go to page 9. Okay. And if you can do your magic on that one, Blair, I'm going to first reference, yep, beautiful. That's perfect. We're stretching out the duration of the bonds that we have. And I'm very grateful to the managers, both Vectors Research and PFMAM. The powder blue box, so that's the top box, that's the overall, that's all of us. If you look at the lowest line on that chart, basically the conclusion is that we're earning 4.65% for an average of the next 2.3 years. So we're stretching out the duration so that we get the higher interest rate for a longer period of time. If you go to the yellow or the golden or the beige box, second to the last line where it's circled there, our fastest horse in the race, about 42% of the Vectors amount is mortgage-backed securities, 42%. That's earning 5.4% for an average of nearly 4 years. So going in the right direction. Then pages 10 through 16, that's all the important details to the penny of every investment that we have. So that's just pages 10 through 16. We go to page 18, as far as, other observations in the report this month. Basically what this page shows is that Vectors Research, that is Neil Powers, has been selected again as one of the top guns in fixed income in the United States. So for 11 consecutive quarters, they've been in the top 10 as far as the low volatility or lower risk fixed income. In fact, in that it outlines that they were 4th out of 140 in their comparable category. Next slide is 19. We had a periodic meeting this past month where we met with our operating bank, JP Morgan Chase, on November 24th. They were our replacement for First American Bank. Again, the King County Chronicle, Brenda Shorey wrote just the silliest headline, and I think did the county damage when they said that, King County was fired by a bank that actually was charging us $650 million more, or $650,000 more per year than what we're earning with JP Morgan Chase. So the operating bank in good hands. Now, it is interesting to me that First American Bank at that time happened to be the King County Chronicle's bank and an advertiser in that newspaper. So, and then finally, one last slide. It would be, let's see. This is a memo that came in. The company 3+1, they help us with, they did an assignment on an RFP for the operating bank, and then they help us with liquidity. Basically, they look over our shoulders to make sure that we get every penny. They have decades and decades of experience as bankers, but then also, they know this business and how the calculations. This memo was basically news that they had located $112,700 in just one example of their work on our behalf, where they go through it's roughly 45 to 50 bank accounts. They make sure that the calculations that are being done by the bank are correct. The banks have been very accommodating, that when 3+1 makes the call, they make the adjustment, we make more interest. So it's not like we have to know all this stuff. We just have to know the right people who know lifetimes of experience more than at least I'll ever know, as far as the banking relationships. So, Mr. Chairman, that's what I have today.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Treasurer Lawson? Ms. Bates?
Well, I'm not, okay, I'll go. I'm not on the committee, but I'll go first.
Sure.
So I see we have mortgage-backed securities. Those were what fell into the fell a lot.
2008.
Nate, are we assured there that we're all right?
We are. These mortgage-backed securities have the full faith and credit of the United States government. So they're fully guaranteed by the government. That's a good question.
John?
Yes, I'm not on the committee either, but thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious, Mr. Lawson, based on what the Fed seems to be pointing towards for next year and the impact on the equity markets yesterday, a significant downturn, not the largest this year, but anyway, what fixed income rates are going to be in the future? How does that affect what we're going to be doing?
Well, I know that you're expert in this area. You distinguished yourself during your career. Your clients appreciated what you did on their behalf. And naturally, very important question. I believe that what the message was yesterday, even though they lowered the rate, what the Fed chairman said afterwards sent the shock through, which was rather than 4 interest rate cuts, he anticipates 2. He can't predict the future fully, but he made that indication. Basically, I think what that says to most of us is that the inflation problem is still high. Some people this morning were reporting that rather than having taken the cut yesterday, hold the line, although that's what was expected to be done. And so they fulfilled the expectation. Better to hold the line early. It's kind of like and this is a Leslie Juby one, rather than trying to put the bit in the horse's mouth on the run, better to saddle up in the barn rather than when it's out of the barn running. I think that that's what that message was, which means that interest rates would stay higher. Now, none of us really knows, I believe, what's going to happen. And that's why I appreciate what the investment managers have been doing in stretching out the duration. For instance, when the report shows on page 9 that overall our portfolio is at about 4.65% for 2.3 years. That literally, we own those bonds and we don't trade bonds. We hold them almost always to maturity. That means that on average, those bonds are going to be yielding 4.65% for the next 2.3 years. So as far as the board's planning, you still have some room to run.
All right, any other questions, any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you.
Item 7, auditor's report, Ms. Wegman.
Good morning. My report is on file. This will probably be my longest report of the year, so please bear with me. I do want to point out that on my report, I did report what we received back in the procurement card rebate. This year from February to October, we received a rebate for $9,984. In contrast, for the 2023 rebate, for the entire year with Fifth Third, we received $10,997. So we're working with only 8 months and we've received almost what we received for the entire year of the year previously with a different vendor. So we're proud of that and what the county has done when we went out to RFP in 22. Secondarily, I wanted to point out I'm sure that most county board members are not very familiar with what my office does, but we audit all the accounts payable, but we also audit the payroll for the county. We're at the end of the fiscal year. There's a lot that goes into the payroll. And I just wanted to take a moment to recognize our payroll department. They're small. There's only 3 members of them. Patsy, who I was unable to grab this morning, but then we have Nina and Jill, the newest employee there. Tuesday, they worked until 2 a.m. to get our payroll taken care of so that everybody can get paid tomorrow. So just really wanted to recognize them. They're always in the background. You don't really see them very often, but they did an amazing job for everybody here in the county this week. So my report, the rest of my report's on file, but I can answer any questions.
Any questions of Ms. Wegman? We have a resolution. Thank you very much. We have a resolution approving November 2024 claims paid of $9,661,834.29.
Sanchez moves.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Happy moves.
Roll call, please.
Juby,
Aye.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Sturgis,
Sturgis, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you very much. Item 8 is the finance director's report, Ms. Hopkinson.
I will second what our county auditor said about our payroll team. This is this month and next month are really extra long hours for payroll. They did in fact work till 2 a.m. The other night to make sure that all the cost of living increases, which went into effect December 1st, all the union increases that took effect at that same date, that they all went into effect so that the next paycheck, everyone can get their increases, as well as splitting the salary between 2 fiscal years. And our computer system doesn't accommodate that very easily. So there's a lot of manual work, and they'll be working even longer hours with the calendar year end and all the W-2s that have to go out. So Patsy, Nina, and our newest Jill. And yes, they do kind of work quietly behind the scenes, but they always get it done. Payroll always gets done. So.
Good.
All right. If we can go to, I'm trying to make this a short report. If we can go to, I think 2 pages down from here. That one. Thank you. We are just still in the process. This is the general fund general account. We're still in the process of posting year-end transactions. We will continue to post year-end transactions probably until the 3rd week of January because invoices are still coming in. We did post the final payroll. It's not reflected in this spreadsheet here because I prepared this last week and we just finished payroll this week. As of last week, the general fund is running over budget on the, we have more expenses than expected and, or less revenues, excuse me, less revenues than expected. That will be changing once we get our, some of our sales tax information in for the month of December and the month of January, which will be accrued back to fiscal year 2024. So that other tax line there, that's at 37 million, that will go up. Because right now, when you look at our general fund, general account, we're using $16 million in fund balance. We had budgeted to use $10 million. But as I said, that will go up, or that will go down once we get in additional tax revenues, which we can post back to fiscal 2024. We still expect contractual services invoices to roll in. Those typically are going to be rolling in probably until mid-January. My guess would be that we probably end the fiscal year using around 14 million in fund balance, which is over budget. The primary reason for that is we overestimated the amount of sales tax revenue that we would be taking in during 2024. When we put the 2024 budget together, inflation was still pretty high, and the sales tax revenue has turned out to be essentially kind of flattening out compared to the prior year. That's all that I wanted to highlight on our financial report. And then I'll just point out that we had our audit kickoff meeting just in the last week to begin our audit. Our auditors are going to be here on site in January and then again in March. So we're working with everybody to get that done as quickly as possible. Also, our strategic plan, we collected 9 responses. A selection committee reviewed all the responses, selected several vendors for oral presentation. We did have those oral presentations, and now we're continuing to evaluate the results of those oral presentations and should have a vendor to present to the finance committee for approval, probably at the next finance committee. Does anyone have any other questions?
Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Hopkinson, could you tell me, I don't remember offhand, what we projected for 25 in sales tax? Have we made an adjustment appropriate for 25 because of the 24 reduction?
Yeah, when we did the 2025 budget, we didn't budget as high of an increase. I want to say off the top of my head, for state sales tax, I want to say 27 million. I don't have it memorized. But that line on that spreadsheet that we were just looking at, other taxes, that includes state sales taxes, RTA sales taxes, income tax, personal property replacement tax. So there's a host of taxes combined in there. But we definitely took into consideration that the sales tax revenue is coming in under budget this year.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens.
Sturgis.
Chairman Berman, thank you. Kathy, I rarely try and ask or make comments that I don't have a solution for, but I don't have a solution for this one, but I need to ask or at least get something out there. On this committee, several months ago, I had suggested, is there a way to put together a dashboard that would be a little bit more real time? I just know other people in my roles in the private sector, there's just so much, and we rely on our department heads to boil this down, and the dashboards, while kind of elementary, they work. And in this particular case, I oftentimes feel that when I come to this committee, and again, I wasn't going to bring this up if I wasn't on the committee. If I'm back on the committee, then I'm going to bring it up. There's so much information. It's like you are backing up the truck and here it comes. And then we spend so much time, Chairman Berman, going through, here's all these resolutions that we need to get through and it's perfunctory. And really, that's not what I want to do here. What I want to do here is spend the time to say, how are we department by department, office by office, within the budget? How are we revenue line by revenue line coming in? And I would rather be spending the lion's share of that time analyzing that and trying to advise our board more of a reactionary posture to say, based on the trends and information we have, this is what we should be doing. And I oftentimes feel that there's just so much information. I'm lost in the minutia of it all. And then it takes me 3 days to go, why didn't I ask her the important question? Because I didn't even understand what the question was at the time, where if we could just develop a simpler solution, have faith that our department has the back, you know, the whatever's happening in the background for that available, but spend our time really analyzing, what are we doing? Where are we going? How are we spending? Are we hitting those goals? Do we have the finances available to do whatever the strategic plan comes out being? But if we can't even understand where we're at, I don't understand how we possibly get to where we want to go.
Right. And I think one of the biggest challenges, especially in governmental accounting, compared to a company has like one income statement, one balance sheet. We've got over 120 funds. And we've got departments that manage multiple funds. We have a fund that has multiple departments in it. This whole packet includes all the budget to actual by office, by department, for each line item, personal services. And I would say, you know, my experience here, it appears that traditionally the county board is mostly interested in the general fund. And there's all these other funds across the county that have all sorts of activity. For example, transportation department, none of those activities are in our general fund. But most of the questions seem to be always about the general fund because that's where most of the people in the county are. So I think as part of the strategic plan, one of the things that we're asking for is performance indicators. Now, our budget book, we require all the departments to provide us with performance indicators. And then they're supposed to report on the performance. I'm hopeful that as part of the strategic planning process, we can perhaps improve on some of those performance indicators and tie them to more of the financial activities within a department. Because I think the current set of performance indicators that we have in the budget book are kind of an afterthought. We do a budget, we do a financial budget, and then, oh, by the way, here's some performance indicators, here's some things that we do and don't do, special programs that we have. And we need to do a better job to tie the performance of the office and the department and what they're doing to the financials, to the numbers.
I don't, if I can, I don't disagree with that at all. And it's enlightening to hear that you're that far ahead. I sit back and I kind of look and say, if we're just going to run these reports and review them the same old way that we've been doing, it's not working, folks. Our budget is upside down. We don't have a command of it. We are hoping for this, counting on that. And for 3 years at least, we've had this backstop of an ARP fund available that we could, you know, maybe do some stuff with. Well, that's, you know, Jarrett closed the books on us. I mean, not Jarrett, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, you know, that's not happening. And we need to, and tighten the belt isn't the right word, but we need to begin looking and analyzing a little bit differently. And I would hope that the growth from within this committee can go to that next level. And I enjoy the notion of a performance indicator. I would just love a simpler format for me to understand what you're even measuring. I'm not, I mean, you do this till 2 a.m. in the morning, making sure that things go in, and we're just part-time people that come in and analyze it, and we're supposed to give a nudge this way or that way. I don't have enough data to get through literally the tedium of everything because I don't have the broad oversight. And as a board member, I don't know how I give direction or influence, or if I can't even wrap my hands around this, and this is perfunctory, this is the most important committee in the entire county because if this doesn't. Sorry?
He is the most important.
Yeah, I'm sure, but without the money that comes from here, we don't have the funding to do anything else. And you know, I'm not suggesting, Mavis, that in any way, shape or form, this group is more important than that group, but without the funding, we don't move forward. And unfortunately, even hearing this morning, oops, we have a $8 million, $10 million little bubble, but that's gonna be, don't worry, we'll worry about it next year. Well, now we're gonna borrow from reserves or the fund balance, you know, okay, instead of 20, we'll borrow 32 or whatever. Oh my gosh, those are scary ass numbers to me. You know what I mean? I'm sitting up straight going, how do we do that? So I don't have a solution other than to ask for a different way of viewing this so that we might not be rubber stamping a bunch of stuff, but really getting into it. So maybe in 6 months, we can begin saying, ooh, county board or, you know, our other 24 member group, we got to pump the brakes here a little bit, or look at this just a little bit differently, or address things, or maybe by the time the new study comes out, you're going to ask us to prioritize some things. And I don't know how we prioritize if this committee doesn't say, here's where you're at financially. So I'm reaching out one more time and, you know, if this is the committee structure, then I'm going to reintroduce, if we can come up with maybe a different view of how we're doing this. I believe that if somebody said, here's resolution, something for that, I believe that our department head is doing it correctly and we can go through that expeditiously. But really what I want to do is look at that department as a whole and say, this is how much money you were allocated. This is what you spent last year. This is where we're going this year. And the board has said, it is our guidance that we don't want to go that way. Or why? Well, because we don't have the money. Or no, we do believe you should add 3 people because there's a savings if you add more, and we'll take that risk. I can't make that because I'm like 3 months behind in a reactionary posture. So I don't know if this is making sense, but I just wanted to throw it out there, Mr.
Well, my explanation, all right, budget is the most important thing that we do. And we come up, and this is with agreement from each of the departments as to what they're going to spend. And they have an idea what they're going to spend it for. They're going to buy 6 trucks, or they're going to buy 3 squad cars, or whatever else they're going to spend their money on. Now, every month we go through and we approve all these resolutions and everything, but those are budgeted items that we really have no control over. We've budgeted that money for them and they can spend it as long as they don't go over budget. They're responsible for looking at their budget. They're responsible for saying that I have enough funds in that account to pay for whatever they're ordering. So we really waste our time approving those resolutions because they're already approved as part of the budget. Now, you know, as far as revenue goes, you know, most of the time in businesses, you take what you think your revenue is going to be and you divide it up by 12 and you show every month that we're going to have such and such revenue. Counties don't work that way. Our revenue doesn't come in like that. So it's really difficult to display on a monthly basis expenses against revenue. But if revenue isn't tracking what Kathleen sees as taxes that are not coming in that what we expect, then she can report that to us, and she does. So I don't know what you're looking for, really. I think if you're looking for something that you see in business, I don't think it's a different story.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, Mr. Sturgis's idea of trying to condense some of the reports so that we have a better understanding of what's going on, I think is a great idea. You know, we always call it the general fund, where in essence, it's really our operating fund.
Well, I mean, but for example, the health department is in a completely separate fund. All of the operations, that's an operating fund. And it too, it has a negative fund balance. It is probably 25% of their 2025 budget is being funded by their fund balance. And that fund as well built up via some ARPA money, built up a fund balance, and they're running that down as well. So we have other operating, the transportation department certain has operations. They have operations in 2 of their funds. So there's operations in many funds across the county. The general fund, clearly the largest of them all, but we have other funds with negative fund balances.
Oh, I'm not disputing that at all. I totally understand that. I think the point I'm trying to make is we need to be able to get information on a more definitive basis or a summation of what's really going on if we can. And, you know, the bottom line is, I think everybody on this committee realizes that this year we're using almost $30 million of reserves. You call it funds, fund balance. It's reserves.
Same thing.
Those reserves are gone. We're going to have somewhere between 5 and 9 million left. Now with some of the announcements today, we may not have that much left. So I think, you know, really the 300-pound gorilla in the corner is we've got to start working on how we're going to either cut expenses or increase revenues. And as everyone knows, increasing revenues is very difficult. If the sales tax referendum goes through, that would solve the problem. But if it doesn't go through, I think what we have to start doing is planning today for the worst case scenario and how we're going to handle that. Looking at the reports for this year, fiscal year 25, we've already allocated 30 million in reserves. But the problem is, and I've stated this at numerous meetings, starting with the fiscal year 26, which starts December 1, 2025, I'm anticipating if we don't get the sales tax referendum passed with just a 3% increase across the board, which I suggested last year, which never materialized, that we're going to be $30 million in the hole. And at $30 million, I think what we've got to start doing is planning for that now, not come August, September, October of next year.
Those are my comments from my chairman comments at the end. So Ms. Juby.
Thank you. I have a clarifying question and then I have another question about something that was in your reports. You just said that we can post back money that we receive in January to this fiscal year. I was under the impression we weren't allowed to do that based on other things that you had said.
No, there's, and it's different for every type of revenue. The state sales tax revenue, following our accounting principles, our accounting rules, we can post it to the fiscal year based on when it's quote measurable and available. And so when the state knows what that is, then we can claim that we can book those. So when the way that the state sales tax revenue comes in, the cash that we deposit into the county's bank accounts in December and January for state sales tax alone, we every year accrue back. So to date, that's why the other taxes number is so low right now, because we only have 10 months of state sales taxes in our 2024 general fund. We will be getting 2 more months. That is not the same for all the other tax revenues that we get across the county.
So if we grab a delinquent that comes in February that was supposed to be collected in November, it still gets posted in February. But if we get a different type of tax that comes in December, but it was collected in November by them, then we can post it.
So the numbers that we record are the numbers that the state is aware of. So the state is aware of their revenues when they get it. So it could be delinquent. We won't know that. It's measurable and available to the state when they know what their numbers are. So we don't get, for example, I think if is what you're asking, if a retailer collected something in July and they don't send it to the state until December, it doesn't work that way. The state won't be sending us, for state sales tax, they won't be sending us that additional delinquent revenue. It's when they get it. It's when the state gets it. So if they get it in December, we'll get it a couple months later. We don't get like a breakout that says when the retailers collected it. We know when the state gets it.
I'm just, that confuses me because I don't understand how if we don't have it, but they think they're going to get it, we can charge it back.
No, it's
to-
based on the cash receipts to the state.
Right, but, okay, we're just going to move on.
Yep.
My next question is, I noticed in here that we don't have the CBAs figured out. Are they, do they get charged back or are they starting in the 2025 budget?
So typically with collective bargaining agreements, if we still have a fiscal year open, and or we haven't completed the audit and we know that there's going to be, let me restart over again. So there's several contracts right now that are open as of December 1st, 2024. Going forward, for our 2025 budget, we conservatively budgeted a 2.5% increase. Whenever those negotiations are completed, there will be retro back to the beginning of the fiscal year. So for example, we just, I think in today's agenda, we have a contract that it has retroactive pay. And when it's retroactive, we have to book it all the way back to the beginning of the fiscal year that that contract was open.
So that will be more expenses than.
Yeah,
what
but
is
we
on
don't
your
have a
chart.
lot of those this year. This contract today, the impact is, I think, under $10,000. It's a very small contract.
That with
but
the whole total compensation with the healthcare costs as well, or is that just salary?
That's just the salary and the payroll taxes and the IRF. But for example, last year at this time, we had a collective bargaining agreement come through probably in February. That was almost a $2 million adjustment retroactive that we had to book all the way back through 2023. It was paid out all at once in cash, but the expense we had to accrue back to the
Okay.
previous year.
So can we get the total compensation dollar amounts instead of just the salaries and payroll tax? Because we still have to pay that extra money into it, and it would be helpful to know. And if you could also tell us how much of that will show up in the 24 budget and how much of it will actually show up in the 25. So we're not dealing with
Right.
assumptions.
Right, this one today, when we ran the numbers, the budget, it's so small. It's a very small group. I think it's less than 10 people. And the impact is less than 10,000 all in, all costs. And the sheriff doesn't even need to adjust his budget to accommodate the financial impact. But some of these other contracts that are open right now. Oh, 15,500. Some of these other contracts that are open right now that went open on December 1st, they're going to have a much bigger impact for 2025 because they're a larger group.
Yes, Mr. Deal.
Thank you, Chairman Berman. And again, thank you.
Right.
Ms. Hopkinson, for what you do with, even as a financial advisor, I hated doing the budget stuff that I needed to do. But I'm thinking back to what Mr. Surgis was saying, and I love the committee goal here, ensuring a balanced budget and adequate cash flow for county operations. That's nice and clear. But then I'm thinking about what's coming at us for 25. And I've been meeting with department heads just because it's my job to get up to speed and hearing about some things that, you know, are coming, very large bargaining unit contracts and the possibility of a sales tax not passing and the vision I have is of us driving at a very large fiscal cliff at a very high rate of speed. So we're going to have to make some tough decisions. That's our job. But I would applaud what Mr. Surgis is saying, that the better tools you can give us, and that on your side too, maybe, Mr. Lawson, I don't know. But we're going to have to make some tough decisions. And if we're guessing or estimating or, that kind of thing, we're not going to be in as good a position to make the cuts and pull things back in that we're going to have to make. And that doesn't make happy people any. So anything you can do to help us.
The best recommendation that I have is that the budget be tied to performance indicators. I think we spend a lot of time just looking at numbers and not tying it to what is the mission of the office? What are they doing? What are the activities that they are performing? Why do they need these resources that they need to budget for? And like I said, historically, the way the budget was done, we did the numbers and then we asked all the offices and the departments to turn in their performance indicators. We flipped it this year, although it didn't probably turn out as expected. And we asked for the performance indicators first prior to the departments entering their numbers in the budget. But I think that that is something that perhaps through the strategic planning process it can be brought forward. I think though that really needs to the department heads and the office heads themselves bringing that information to the board would be very beneficial, tying their performance indicators to their financial requests. And that, I don't know that we do that.
Surges.
Just to have the conversation of our financial leader saying performance indicators is refreshing. You don't understand. And I think John is the only new member here. And John, Kathy, I think you have our support. We are a team. She gets dumped on, dude. We really, like, we think she's an AI generator that we can just ask a question to and she has it at the snap. It's not that easy. We get it. Our challenge is to look forward. And John, just, you said, oh, it's so nice to have such a clear committee goal, ensure a balanced budget. I'm sure that Mr. Berman and I don't even agree on what the definition of balanced budget means. So just, understand, it seems like, what's the problem here? And you're just like, no, it's a bigger conversation. And thank you, Kathy. Be patient with us. I think we're all have the same goal. And Mr. Berman, thank you again for allowing us to speak. Appreciate it.
Ms. Lewis.
So I think last year, maybe the year before, at the beginning of the year, Madam Chair said that at every meeting, the budget should be discussed for that group. And I think we should get back to that. So like at every, not finance, because we see it all, but like at every judicial meeting that they talk about, is your budget on target? Is it behind? Is it ahead? What are we seeing? And maybe if we do it at the committee level, then by the time it gets to us, maybe it would be easier to sort through all this. And I think maybe trying to translate Cliff, maybe that's what he was talking about with dashboards, so that we could see like, whose budget and where it's really at, and then talk about it at the committee level, because that's where they really have to do the work. Am I kind of right?
Anita, I could see this committee saying to another committee, you're a little out of tolerance. We'd like you to come report back. Yeah,
Maybe we could talk about it offline and kind of give her some ideas.
Ms. Bates.
I have a short question and hopefully has a short answer. But I see in the, how come interest revenue was minus 45% of expectations when Mr. Lawson keeps?
The finance staff has not posted interest earned to the general ledger since April of 2024.
Really? May I ask why?
We are unable to reconcile the bank.
You don't have the information you need to do that?
We are still waiting on supporting documentation for certain transactions.
Any other questions of? Thank you very much, Kathy. Oh, item number 9, new business. We'll start out with a resolution. Emergency appropriation for transfer of funds from the FEMA PA Fund number 358 to the general fund, general account number 001, $155,158.67.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez,
Steffi seconds.
happy discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Yes.
Berman.
Yes. Item B is a resolution, emergency appropriation and budget adjustment for the coroner DOJ morgue tech grant. Total of $101,450, but $20,290 and 24 and $81,160.25. Do we have a motion?
Sanchez moves.
Steffi seconds.
Sanchez, Tepe, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Item C, a resolution authorizing new account code and reclassification of budgeted amounts for the coroner's health opiate grant. Effect on dollars.
Leonard moves.
Leonard moves.
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez, second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges, Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. D is a resolution reappropriating funds and amending resolution number 23-76, approving a contract for construction with Curran Contracting Company of Crystal Lake, Illinois, for the Doberman Road Extension, Kane County, section number 15-00277-01-BR, $15,571,763.84.
Leonard moves.
Leonard,
Lewis, seconds.
Lewis, discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Steffi, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes, thank you. E is a resolution authorizing execution of collective bargaining agreement between the County of Kane, Kane County Sheriff, and the Policeman's Benevolent Labor Committee, the Kane County Sheriff's Office Maintenance and Janitor Unit. A motion for approval.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez,
Lewis, seconds.
Lewis, discussion. Mr. Tepe.
Can we have this explained in a little bit more depth financially as to where the impact is?
Good morning, everyone. Chief Kanish. Their contract ended January 1st or ended December of 2022. So their current contract was from January 1st, 2023 to November of 2024. We are asking for this to be passed. They have an increase of for their contract of 4.12% in 2023, 3% in 2024, and 3% in 2025. So altogether, the increases in the retro would be $15,000 for the 5 employees.
Okay, how much?
15,000 of retro pay for the 5 employees.
explanation. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Maybe I,
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. F is a resolution. Acceptance and use of trust donation made to the animal control of $10,000.
Sanchez.
Lewis.
Sanchez seconds.
Sanchez. Discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
maybe I,
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. G is a resolution authorizing contract extension of aerial ophthalmic $94,800.
Sanchez moves.
Leonard seconds.
Mr. Chair.
Discussion.
I have some questions about
Yes.
this because this didn't actually go through a committee. I just wondered if there was anybody that could tell us what it actually is. We didn't have quorum, so we passed it forward, but I don't know what it is.
Mr. Lasky should be able to.
Could tell us.
Somebody.
Good morning. This is Charles Lasky with the IT department. I also have Kurt Lebo, who is our new GIS director. Tom Nikosti retired after many years of good service and Kurt just took over. So Kurt's here to answer specific questions about this resolution. So I'll let him take this from here and I can answer other questions if needed.
Sure. So the question is, what is the aerial imagery?
Yeah, because we didn't have any discussion about this, so I don't know what this is.
Okay, yeah. So the county has a long history of historical aerial imagery. We have imagery from 1929 to date. The GIS department manages that contract. We had a resolution or we went out to bid 2 years ago. And this is the ongoing renewal of that contract. So the aerial imagery, there's a plane goes out, flies at 2,000 feet. We get images for the entire county. Very high resolution engineering grade this year. And they're used by KDOT, they're used by the GIS department, they're used by emergency management, they're used by IT, uses them, almost every department. Water resources is a big user too. So it's a standard thing that we do every year.
Okay, so this was a time sensitive issue for us to get this.
It is. So they want to do the flights with a leap off. So we have to do all the planning and then they're planning on doing the flights will start March 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Should be I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Pepe,
Pepe, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms.
I have to leave for a meeting downstairs. May I just make a comment?
Please.
It's short. I would like to request a Finance 101 Committee of the Whole. I would have brought this up at the end of the meeting, but I had to leave. Like a Finance 101 Committee of the Whole meeting for the new people and people like me who still need more help with understanding finance. Maybe Ms. Hopkinson could do that. Is she here? Or did she? I'm giving you another job, Kathy. I'm sorry, but I need it. I imagine the new people need it too. And could we have a pointer when we're like a cursor that people at home and here could see when we're going through all these numbers? Because I can't find the numbers fast enough when she's talking about it. That's all. I'm out of here. I'll stop asking for favors.
Finance 101 from the Committee of the Whole level. We'll take that under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just kind of slightly related to that, I did come across some materials online about local government budgets and balance sheets and how to read them. And actually, I was going to bring that forward next month. So that's something that might actually kind of fall in line with that sort of budgeting 101 sort of approach. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Mr.
I could ask Mr. Sanchez, could you send that to all the county board members?
Yeah, that was my intention,
Right.
but to just talk about it at this committee at least. Yeah.
I think you should talk with Kathleen, make sure that
Yeah.
what you're presenting to the board is meets our requirements and what she's up to.
Yeah, I think I
Okay.
did bring it up to her about a year ago when I first came across this, and then it kind of collected some dust on a shelf, and I think it's a good time to bring it back. But I believe it comes from like GFOA.
Well, I think we want to make sure that Kathleen is aware of it and would give her stamp of approval. Okay, thank you. Where are we? Oh. Item H, a resolution authorizing opioid response community implementation project for $50,000.
Leonard moves.
Leonard,
Juby seconds.
second discussion. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Surges, yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. Thank you. I is a resolution approving county board personal expense voucher reimbursement request of $43.46.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez,
Lewis,
Lewis, discussion. Mr. Leonard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm wondering if on these personal expense vouchers, when they're in such small amounts, like $43 or 52 or whatever, could we, Mr. Frank, change the ordinance so that any legitimate documented expense under X amount of dollars doesn't have to go through committee for approval?
We can look into it. If it's a local ordinance thing, then yeah, of course you can. But if it's a state mandate, it would be different, but I don't know the answer right off the top of my head.
Thank you.
I think it's a state mandate, but that's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sanchez here. Somewhat related to what Mr. Leonard was talking about. This came up last year. We saw a lot of these PEVs coming through. I would like to see us really flesh out a good policy for these. I'm not opposed to approving these. I just think we do need to have a little more well-defined sense of what the usage is, especially when it comes to county board members as well. Because there's only so much money available for it. And, you know, if we have one or two people that are using the majority of the funds, you know, we want to be able to have a little more equity.
Whose responsibility you feel is to develop that procedure?
I don't know. I think it's something that probably this committee would be able to talk about, you know, because it really just has to do with our finance.
Ms. Juby.
I don't have a problem with these three, but I know that when some of them have been put forth for like board members' expenses, we were told that their budget was empty. Is there money in this budget for these three? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, new fiscal year. Oh, okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Mhm.
I would hope there is. I'm sure there is. Madam Chair feels there is, so we'll.
Yes, she said there was.
I just looked it up. It is governed by state law. So 50 ILCS 150-15 says if it's a expense by the governing body, it must be approved by roll call vote.
Yes. I know. Oh, where are we? Any?
Item I. It's been moved in.
Aye. We have a motion and a second. We discussed it. Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Item J, the resolution approving county board personal expense voucher reimbursement request $1,360.64.
Juby moves.
Judy,
Lewis seconds.
Lewis, discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman, yes. Thank you. K is a resolution approving county board personal expense voucher reimbursement request of $111.50.
Sanchez moves.
Sanchez,
Juby seconds.
Juby, discussion? Roll call, please.
Juby,
Juby, I.
Lewis,
Yes.
Sanchez,
Sanchez, yes.
Surges,
Yes.
Tepe,
Happy, yes.
Leonard,
Leonard, yes.
Berman.
Berman, yes. All right, includes our new business. Is there any old business to come before us? Mr. Sturgis.
Just a question, before we leave new business.
Okay.
It's, Dale, if all of these are budgeted items that are within tolerance, do we have to do them individually and chew up that half an hour instead of talking about bigger things? Or can this be a consent type deal unless something's outside of tolerance? Do we have that flexibility or no?
My feelings are it should be consent, but that's, I have to.
We can make John the bad guy. That's okay.
If you guys want to look into the process of seeing if a consent agenda can be created for finance, sure. I would note, however, if you recall, you guys changed or we started more stringently enforcing your jurisdiction, which is anything that is within budget should not be coming to finance. The only thing that finance should be dealing with right now is the actual budget, the annual budget, and anything that is a quote budget adjustment or something akin to it. So unless it's messing with the budget, it should not be coming to you. So I don't know how these resolutions got on here if they are not if they are already
Kathy
budgeted.
just stood up behind you quickly, so.
Okay.
Because of the fact that the committees were, the committee dates were changed this month in December, we had a few departments ask us if they could put some of their items on the finance and budget committee agenda that they would have normally put on.
Was the attempt to essentially have it go through finance and then go to executive?
Yes, I think
Okay, so-
transportation, Tom, I think is gone. The transportation one was one item
So they weren't, are you suggesting they weren't able to get it onto their domicile, their?
because everything was
committee?
earlier this month.
Okay, so all I'll say in that regard is this doesn't fix that issue. Putting it onto finance doesn't fix the workflow issue. So for it to go to executive, either Madam Chair needs to use her authority as the chairperson of the executive committee and put it on, which means this was not a purposeful vote for that. Jurisdiction means if you have jurisdiction, you must vote on it before it can go to exec. So even if KDOT doesn't have a meeting, moving it to another standing committee doesn't fix that issue. So what I guess I would tell you is if that happens in the future, the answer is either one of two things, either a special committee, standing committee for whoever couldn't have it on that date, or B, ask Madam Chair to add it to executive to keep things rolling for the same time period. But this, moving it to another standing committee doesn't fix the jurisdictional workflow issue.
Mr. Chair, I have a question because everything on this agenda, with the exception of the aerial things, was done in their committees. Because we talked about all these things. So there was only one thing, with the exception of the personal expense vouchers, the only thing that wasn't discussed in committee that's on this agenda was the authorizing the contact extension for the aerial imagery. So I'm more confused now than I was when the question was asked.
The CBA came directly to finance.
Oh, the CBA. So there's two that were on here. So there's all these other things that didn't need to be on here. We just needed the CBA, the expense vouchers, and the aerial.
Anything, so items A, B, C came directly out of the finance department and would have normally been on this agenda. E, we were asked to put it on this agenda, Finance Committee. D, we were also asked by the Transportation Department to put it on the Finance Committee agenda. It wouldn't normally have been here, but we were asked to put it on here because of the change in committee dates.
So let me ask on E, is E now going to go to labor management? I mean, are we saying that E was already bypassed labor management or did it already pass labor management? It's just coming to finance?
Who are you asking?
It says it's going to executive next.
Okay, so
Finance
I'm
executive,
asking whoever might know this answer because we're talking about workflow. And specifically as it relates to finance, you guys traditionally have been the dumping ground for anything that just doesn't quite fit another jurisdiction. And so the whole point of that resolution change was to make sure that you guys are only focusing on the budget. So to me, E is clearly a labor union issue, which means it needs to go to labor management. That's the jurisdiction for this. So if it got put on finance because it relates to money, that's not really what this is, because if it's a $15,000 difference, and I believe the sheriff is covering all of that within his budget, then it's not changing the budget. And if it's not changing the budget, then it's not here. You don't have proper jurisdiction to pass it to executive. So that's what I guess I'm saying is proper workflow requires the actual jurisdiction to be asserted and used. So I guess my question on E is to whoever can answer this, is it going to go to labor management next? Because if it's not, then the only way for it to go to executive properly under your own ordinance is for Madam Chair to use her executive authority as the person who creates the agenda.
Ms. Molina asked, she may have an answer to this.
Thank you, Chairman Berman. Labor management has not met since February of 2024. We have requested Ms. Gumbs through multiple emails to have a labor management meeting, and that has not occurred. So no, we have not discussed the CBA.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. I will start getting into it. For purposes of timing, if Madam Chair would like to simply just put it on the agenda, she has that authority and that right, so it shouldn't be a problem.
She's right here. Let's ask.
So then it's taken
Yeah.
care of.
Well,
I just kind of want to make it clear for all of you in finance, because this seems to be kind of the common place where technically, because the money touches everything, you have some tangential sort of related jurisdiction, which is why it's always easy to come here. But the impression I got from all of you when Kathy and I were in support of changing your all's, or well, really enforcing your all's jurisdiction, was to make sure that this type of stuff doesn't get put on you. So that way you're not spending 30 minutes when you guys should be focusing on the upcoming budget, which I will admit, I largely agree is one of the most important things that will be coming forward this year. So however you'd like some help enforcing this, I believe Kathy and I can absolutely do that. But we'll take the direction from you. If you want to still have these things come through, you can. It just doesn't actually move anything because jurisdictionally, you don't have any authority over it.
I think Mr. Surges was very clear. It's been a while since we had a double alphabet agenda, but we'd rather keep it under partial of the alphabet.
And Chairman Berman, again, yeah, I mean, people, it's for anybody online, 30 minutes, well, that's your job and you guys get paid to be here. But it's 30 minutes times 10 people in the room. Okay, that quantity of time could be better spent when this budget is really needing to be addressed, is my suggestion. I don't want to diminish anything. I just want to say there was no point for it coming here. Why is it here? Let's just keep moving. So anyhow, thank you.
Very good. All right, any no business, ask for reports to be placed on file. Do we have a consent?
Sanchez asked for unanimous consent to place reports on file.
Any opposition? Our reports will be placed on file by consent. My comments. This committee is responsible for presenting a balanced budget to the executive committee. That's our role. That's our biggest role. And I think that's the most important thing from the standpoint of the county board, to come up with a budget, a balanced budget. We struggled for the 2025 budget. And I think we had some great ideas in the beginning, presented to the departments and to our elected officials. I don't think we got the kind of support we wanted during that time. I think we had several special meetings to come up with the answers to it. I think what it boiled down to is that we had resources that we could use to balance the budget, and that was the easiest thing for us to do. Well, we don't have that for like 2026. And I think we have a salvation on April Fool's Day, which possibly might help us. But I'll tell you, starting at our next meeting, we each need to come prepared to discuss how we're going. I think our idea for increasing revenue, I think we've already discussed that. We've already come up with the answer to that. Our answer now, our problem now is to discuss how are we going to reduce expenses. So I think each one of us has to come up with an approach, an idea of what we need to do. I think it has to be discussed in open meetings. I think we each have to participate. There's all kinds of different ideas. I know there are. We talk about, there's some small items and that add up, but we're talking, $20 million. And, that's a lot of small items. And yeah, closer to 30 million. So we got a real challenge for this next year. And I think we all need to help determine how we're going to cut those expenses. This year was really a difficult one from a finance standpoint. And I want to commend each and every one of you for the efforts put in. The questions asked were great. I think we got the answers we needed. Sometimes there's some confusion, but I think we all work together, and I think that's what we're going to need this next year. It's going to be a real challenge for us. And thank you for the past, and thank you for your future contribution. So those are my comments. Any executive session? No. Motion for adjournment, or anyone else would like to make comments? Now is a good time to do.
Leonard moves to adjourn.
Sanchez seconds.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?